Hi, parents. This is Lucky Mommy, single mom of three teenagers. I grew up with five siblings in the midst of joy and chaos and all sorts of amazing nonsense. My parents were studying psychology when I was in elementary school, and I think we were their lab experiments. I wanted to have the same madness and noise and love and chaos in my house as I experienced in my parents' house growing up. We lived below the poverty line in and around Chicago, and I think we were on the verge of eviction from house to house to house my entire childhood. I remember my parents treating us to breakfast for dinner once, and it was this big adventure. But as an adult, I realized that that breakfast was all the food that we had in the house. Both my parents managed to create optimism and positivity in the most difficult of situations. And at the same time, we managed to get a good education, despite a community with gangs and drugs and teenage pregnancies and violence and all the things that really wanted to stand in the way of us being able to thrive. I graduated third in my high school class. I went to Harvard and I studied psychology with a focus on child development. After college, I spent some time as a professional actress, and when I turned 25, I decided that I had failed. I was comparing myself to my mom. At 25, my mom she owned a car, she owned a house, she had raised two younger cousins, and she had her own child. My biological clock had started ticking, and I was ready to be a mom. It took me another 4 years before I could make that happen. I reconnected with a childhood friend, and I got down to the business of parenting. So my first summer as a mom, I had my newborn, my 5-year-old stepson, and a 12-year-old nephew. So all the chaos that I wanted descended on my house immediately. I got a crash course in parenting while I was figuring out how I wanted to raise my child. And I looked at the ways that my kids interacted with each other and the way they interacted with me and how different that was from what I had experienced as a child growing up. And I realized that the default is really easy. And I'm not saying parenting is easy, but I'm saying that there's a default that just kind of goes with the flow, that's a lot easier than the work and the trial and error and the effort that it takes to be really intentional about parenting and to create a different type of an outcome. So I got really intentional about how I ran my household. I used to say you can raise productive members of society or you can raise future serial killers. My mother-in-law hated that, so I had to stop saying it. When the Lucky kids were 2, 4, and 6, I became a single mom. At the same time, I had a couple of close friends who were going through that same experience. So we created a support group, and we gave each other advice, we gave each other guidance and feedback, and we really challenged each other to try to find our way through this kind of overwhelming experience and to try to get it right. And I think together we were able to figure some things out. But most importantly, none of us felt like we were alone in the process. So through my single moms group and various other avenues, I frequently find myself giving parenting advice. And maybe it started because I was the first one in my social circle to have kids, or maybe it was because my friends looked at my kids and saw their independence and their sense of responsibility and wanted to figure out how they could emulate that in their own homes. Whatever it was, I find myself talking about parenting a lot. So I decided to start this channel to talk about the questions that we have and the challenges that we face as parents. And I'm not focused on single parents or any particular demographic. I just want to talk about parenting. And when it's all said and done, I think I've got two desired outcomes. The first is that we as parents shouldn't be responsible for all of the work that it takes to run a household. My goal is that our children and everyone in the household is a participant in the outcomes of the household. So, from chores to communication to transportation to all of the different things that are necessary to be able to manage a household, everybody should have a part in it. And second, we're developing a future generation, and we want to create and develop people who will thrive and who will be able to function independently in society without us. My mom was an only child, and she told me lots of stories about what it was like growing up, just her and her mom. Her mom taught her everything that she needed to know to be able to survive in society on her own. And then my grandmother passed when my mom was 17 years old. So she ran out of time to teach those life lessons. But the work was done. And my mom was able to step into the world as a 17-year-old and live independently. I probably think about what would happen to my children if I died more often than I should. And if you combine that with being a single parent who literally can't do everything, right? It's not physically possible. You just end up with a different style of parenting and different outcomes. So 18 years into the parenting game, I now have a young adult who's getting ready for college and two teenagers who are working their way in that direction. So I canvassed all my mom friends, and I wanted to create an index of things that I do that are different or weird, or outcomes that they see in my household that are positive and that they think are worthy of talking about. So that index of topics is going to drive the episodes that I create for this channel. If this sounds like something that would be interesting to you, follow me. If you have parent friends that you think might find this enjoyable or valuable, tell them about it and ask them to follow me. And if you have topics that you want me to cover or challenges that you face as a parent that you think you'd like to hear my views on or how I approach them, message me, write in the comments, and let me know what those topics are. I'm going to do my best to talk about all the things that we care about as parents and to create a dialogue that creates a community of people who are doing this together. And the most important thing is that we stop feeling like any one of us is on our own or figuring out something for the first time. So give me a thumbs up, follow me on YouTube, follow me on Instagram at Lucky Mommy, and I'm really looking forward to talking with you. Welcome to my chaos. I'll see you soon.